We'll jump right in with Missouri. I really feel like what's going on, Jeff? Good to see you on here. Yes, two short leashes this weekend for Penn State, Coach Franklin, and maybe Coach Freeze. I don't know. I don't think they're going to fire a guy in the middle of the season, but let's talk about the 1,200-yard passer, Prabula. Penn State transfer comes on over to play for Coach Drinkowitz. Missouri has a lot of transfers. They also have one of their linebackers. I think he's done a really good job for them this year in tackling. I think he's got, let's see, already 14 tackles, Trotter, on the season. And also they had a transfer come in from South Alabama, I think he's number 4. Also done a good job for them. I'm just going to start with the Missouri defense. Third down conversion percentage defense, Missouri is 3 in 5 games. Opponents' third down conversions is 13, where we'll say, let's take Auburn's, for example. Defense is not terrible. They're 12. They're giving up somewhere around, looks like about 0.26% of the time. Opponents' third down attempts against Auburn, 71. They converted 19. Missouri has had 60 third down attempts against them. They've only given up 13. That's pretty good numbers. So let's start there. Defensively, I think Missouri has a lot of question marks at the D-back positions. It seemed like that's just kind of it's been a common theme to me for a lot of schools, DBs. Both these teams are differently on one side of the scale to the other. Talking about Alabama and Missouri first. Alabama's top. I heard somebody say they were top 2, and their back 4 is probably some of the best, D-backs in the country. And considering that they've played ranked opponents and taking care of business and getting on the road and going to Athens, I can, see that. Also against supposedly a very great offense in Vanderbilt, which they're just a run-heavy team that's played nobody and probably has got to throw the ball around. And when Bama forced him to try to throw the ball, he couldn't get the job done. They couldn't score. So they just load the box and play defense and dare him to throw the ball. Does Bama play Missouri the same way? Now, we talked about Missouri's defense a little bit. I think they're a little sketchy on the backside. Not bad up front at all. I mean, they're ranked. They're ranked up pretty high defensively on their front 7. It's going to be important to controlling the clock because Missouri is also – they're one of the top teams of taking control of third downs and getting to third downs. Like Alabama, they're similar in that way to where, them keeping the ball and where they're at on the field, they can really make this a long game. How Bama did with Georgia, they've been doing that to a lot of people. So how does Bama's defense stack up? Are they, is Missouri going to bid again to these third downs, or can Bama stop them on these third downs? Because they have a little secret weapon, leading rusher in the SEC. I say, I don't know, man. It's Hardy. Maybe he's one of the leading rushers in the country. This is a big, strong, thick guy. I'll give you some size over here. 730 yards already for the year. He's 5'10", 215. That's that size. Okay. He's that size that has that. I always like to use the term Mark Ingram. He come from La Monroe. I've talked about him for a couple of weeks. And Coach Vincent, what a good job he did at La Monroe. And then winning, school record setting wins and Coach of the Year last year, and I watched them play Alabama, and it would be great for them to have those guys and a DB that they also lost in the transfer portal too. So, good players out there for them. So, again, how can the Bama defense, are they just going to load up and try to play Hardy, literally and figuratively? Are they just going to load up and play him and, figure out we're just going to stop the run game and let him try to throw as he will? He's also thrown for a lot of yards, and so had Pavia. So, and I don't want to compare. I don't want to compare those two because that's not fair to Prabula. He's thrown for, like I said, over 1,200 yards. I think he's a good quarterback, and I think he can get out there and run and probably cause some damage. He's the typical 6'2", 210, 215-pound quarterback, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 78.2 QBR says that he can get it done. Right now, versus conference teams, he's a little under 60%. But here's what you got to start somewhere. So if you're going to pick games, and we're going to talk about Auburn and Georgia in a minute, if you're going to pick games, we got to look at, who they've played. Because, there's no other way to base any of this on. You just base it on just nothing. So you got to base it on something. Let's base it on who they've played first. We've talked about Missouri's defense and where they are. I don't think I shouldn't say it's nothing worth writing home, but I just told you where they were ranked at, total defense. They're like 5th. Okay. And they're also like top 2 or 3 for, stopping teams on third down. But who have they done that to? So let's look at the schedule. Central Arkansas, Prabula, throw for 283. Hardy rushed for 100. They played Kansas, won by 11. Prabula throw for 334. The Roberts kid rushed for 143. Coleman Jr., 126 catches. Played Louisiana, Raging Cajuns. Not a team. 2 years ago, they had a pretty good team. This is not their year at all. Prabula, again, throws for only 175 that day, but Hardy runs for 250. But he, you would assume he could run for 200 on these guys. They played in South Carolina, won 29-20, where I watched some of that game. In South Carolina, they just went dead, and they couldn't finish the game. They're just not having a good season. Their defense is just absolutely just letting stuff pour out all over the place. South Carolina took the L against Missouri. Prabula 171. Hardy rushed for 138 on them. And then, of course, they played Massachusetts the week before. And, of course, they won that game. Prabula throws for 240. So I'm looking at who they've played. Guys, they ain't played a ranked team. They hadn't played a top 50 rated defense. So, let's be careful when we're judging here to say how good Prabula is. And I don't want to knock no shade on Hardy. I think he's a good tailback. He looks the part. He fits the part. Everybody's talking about him. But it kind of reminds me of when we went back earlier in the year when Auburn was playing this, Cupcake Alley down there. They were really piled up, beating their chest that, they had this running game. But I was saying, who they played. And then when they played somebody, it was negative yards after the half or, 40, 50 yards after the half. And I'm using that in reference because who you're playing matters. Who you're playing matters. Now, you would say, well, Matt, Georgia run for 200 yards. Well, is this Hardy kid, obviously he got mixed around the shuffle. Is he good, the Bowens kid at Georgia? I don't know. We're going to find out Saturday. Georgia found a way to move the ball on the ends, didn't have a ton of success up the middle, but they found out how to stretch the field because that's what Bobo kind of likes to do. Some the Georgia fans don't really care for them, for that style of football. So how does Hardy, and we're trying to think of him if he was at Georgia, would he have run for 200 yards? Is Georgia's offensive line better than Missouri's offensive line? See, these are things you got to think about when you're trying to pick a game and figure out, what's going on. There's a lot of aspects to this. And it is about matchups. Teams just match up differently. So, trying to do that player souffle and play categories with these guys and try to replace this player with that one and think how this works, those are all part of the process of how I pick games, and I don't usually miss games. Sometimes the crazy ones like, UCLA beating Penn State or something. But other than that, I usually do pretty good at it. Now, Alabama's offense. We talked about Missouri's offense, their running guys, and how they like to score and how they can, move the ball and that type of stuff. And we talked about Missouri's defense to open up. So we're just laying out a thing here to give everybody some information to what you're thinking. And I'm just telling you what I'm thinking. It's locker room sports. We're just dudes sitting around in the locker room talking football. Ty Simpson knocking at 1,500. Miller's over, 182 on the year, not a lot. He's about at least 400 behind where I think he should be. I'm not a big fan of Jam. I ain't seen nothing spectacular. He don't want to score. I just by how he plays, he just don't seem like he wants to score. Now throwing the ball, Bernard's, like 390, and I think Ryan is right behind him, like 350 or 360. Hubbard's even got 2 picks on the year. So, that's defense. We're talking tied offense. So offensively, he's thrown 1 pick. He's over 70% completion percentage, blah, 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 all that stuff. Yeah, Matt, we don't really care. I think Riley could be some difference against a front that's going to try to stack the box up. They're going to try to, on short distances, they're going to try to keep Bama from running the ball. They know that Bama's going to want to try to run the ball. Because what does running the ball do, man? I mean, we've seen teams run a lot of yards and lose games. Well, because they just hit them on about 4 or 5 plays, so it looks like a lot of yards. But unless you really watch the game, you find out it was a couple of like 4 big run plays for like 40-yard run. Somebody missed their tackle or somebody's in the wrong key and missed it, and a guy breaks up the sideline for 40. Or you catch a tight end coming in motion, they pitch in the ball, and somebody gets blocked. One guy makes a good block, and he's gone for 30. Well, you got 3 plays for 30. That's nearly 100 yards. So what I'm saying is, how's Missouri going to try to play this short game defense? Because Bama's going to try to push it to a third down situations. When they get in those situations, 3rd and 3, they're going to want to run the ball. Is Missouri going to try to load it up and play 8 in the box? But they'll probably have to play 7. Bama may play doubles, on the high side of the field and play a, single receiver at the short side. And we've seen Bama play short side of the field we've seen them stack receivers. Sometimes bring guy in motion like Bernard, pitch him the ball. So how's the Bama offense, going to look? I think they'll have a good day. I don't see there's no reason at all they shouldn't. Jam and Riley should equally share for nearly 200 yards rushing. I'm not sold completely on their front 4. I think their linebackers are pretty good. I mentioned them too to open the show. But their corners are going to be the weak spot. And it's going to give Ty windows to throw the ball, because I don't think many DBs in the country can cover. Ty's throwing it to 5 different guys on average. 4. He threw it to like 5 or 6 guys last week. I mean, even Jam, they're catching them out of the backfield too. So all that hula bala, kind of boils down to, to one thing. It's an early kickoff. It's an early kick, and Bama's, only favored by 3 in this game. And I'm just, kind of curious how how that's going to work out. What's going to be what's the shakeup? What's the thing that Missouri needs to happen, for it to go their way? Oh, it's 2.5 now. 2.5. It's dropped again. Bama shows to be favored by 63%. I can probably agree with that. We know what happened last year. It was not a good sight last year. Quarterbacks, kind of the same. Tyus throwed for 13 touchdowns and 1 pick, so they just ain't played nobody. Missouri's Saturday is hitting their schedule. Their season really begins on Saturday. Hardy, too. I think he's a good back, but we're fixing to find out if Hardy is fake news or if it's the real deal. So, anybody got any score picks, I'll be glad to take them. What's going on there? Zachariah and the other Zach. I feel like with the way Bama should be able to control the ball and how their offense has played so far, I don't see any reason they couldn't get to 30. I just believe that. And it's still out there to find out. I mean, it's kind of like trying to tell a story and you don't even know the character, so I'm just trying to make it up as I go along. Well, that's really what we're finding out with Missouri. We just don't know. Zach's got 37-17. He don't like Missouri's offense too much. It could go that way. If he's seeing in fake news, then it could very easily. It could be that way. But if he's really that good, you think, well, how do you get him? I've seen players get missed and go to small schools and then bump up and do fine. We've seen Fluff play against, good opponents. I think he's hurt too. Somebody look that up for me. Fluff Bothwell injury. I heard that he got hurt Saturday from somebody that's kind of close to them. I'd like to know. I really hope that's not true. I hope he's going to be okay. He's really fun to watch at Mississippi State. I'm trying to think score. I think Missouri could probably score a little more, maybe a 30, maybe a 36-24. I'm giving Missouri a little credit here, okay? I'm going out on a little bit of a limb and thinking this Beulah guy is pretty good. But, he did leave Penn State, and I remember him specifically saying when he hit the portal, because people kind of questioned about it. People are kind of sick of seeing people transfer. Now, there's only one window now. So you fix the college football, some teams be able to hold on to guys. They're not going to be able to just jump and leave in the spring. That's over. You can only leave after the bowl games now. So I'm kind of curious to see how this, kind of plays out with Hardy. I think here's the keys, and we'll move to Auburn, and I've got 20 minutes, about what we wanted. Is Hardy really the deal? Did he just get missed and prospects of other bigger schools missing him? And that does happen. Him come out of high school, man, he looks the part. Guys, have you seen him play? I watched him play South Carolina. He can run the football. His vision's good. He's got that lean to him. He can make people miss tackles. He's one of the leaders in the country of yards after tackle. But again, you have to go back and say, who have they played? Against Kansas, Charleston Southern, or Arkansas Central State Technical College? I don't know. I don't know. And I love pulling for the underdog running backs, but not Saturday. And I think, and you're saying, well, man, gosh, Vegas, you just told us it was 2.5. That means they think it's going to be a close game. And I think that is because, one, the Boar hasn't, I don't know why yet, that road loss at Florida State and last year at Oklahoma still looms in the heads of these bettors. It still looms in the heads of these bettors. Let's see. I guess it's like overall, DeBoer's, well, Reddy's top coaches in the country have beaten top 25 AP poll ranked teams. But on the road, it seems like he has trouble getting the guys ready. And if there's any game of that other key that I said, Hardy, is he real deal or is he fake news? And two, the other point of why I think Vegas is holding those points down, it's an early kick on the road. You know, after – I guess you could say an emotional. It wasn't to me, really. I mean, they're just the next game on the schedule. And I really think, from what I hear from the guys talking and watching interviews, Bama feels like it's us against the world. And it's just, you know, next team up, you know, from somebody that was in the locker room at Athens. They're loading their pads and stuff on the bus. Stuff is getting loaded on the bus, and players are getting changed, did some interviews, and on their way out, this person heard the players at Bama talking about Vanderbilt. They were already over the Georgia win and ready to move on to next week. That Saban effect is still looming around there. You play faceless opponents. We won this game. It's time to move on. They're not even celebrating 24 hours. They were ready. So I hope that carried over, because an 11 o'clock kick game away, they're going to go stay in the hotel the night before. And we know what we heard at Florida State. The board debunked that. I think yesterday on Bussin' with the Boys, he said that those allegations of the guys getting DoorDash and stuff was not true. They had people – there's people look into that. And there's people that they're there just to keep eye on the kids to kind of hinder them from doing that. So I think Bama's got enough offense, and I'm just not sold yet on Missouri. I think Drink's done a good job. I opened the show talking about their defense and the guys they've got in from the portal. They got that kid from Jackson that played with Dion, and he's been around. And Hardy come from La Monroe. The other kid had been to South Alabama. He's just been like 4 places. He's a good player. And some of their linemen they've picked up in the portal, and they've been good. They've graded out well. So hats off to Drink for doing a good job in the portal, finding the right guys. But I think the real test time comes Saturday. No more fake tests where you get the easy test and, like, you know, you get two of the wrong answers marked off. I think it's test time, and we're going to see who's going to talk it, because I'm just not sure if Missouri DBs can slow down all the receiving corps, and including tight ends at Alabama. I just don't know. Their schedule just hadn't thrilled me to that high expectation yet. And I don't want to harp on this anymore, but it is kind of important to say that early kicks, man, it's just not in the favor of the traveling team. Knowing that they got Tennessee the next week, that's very concerning to me. And I've said it 5 times now, so I think y'all get it. That could be the thing. Can they get focused, get on the bus Friday, go down, Thursday, and go down Friday, stay at the motel, do their walkthroughs, do study, and really get locked in. Is this team really brothers, arm in arm, ready to go try to win a chip? We're going to find out Saturday. By 12:30, I think you'll have a good idea of what's going to go on. I think you'll have a really good idea of what's going on. And it's on ABC. God, I hate it being on ABC. They have so many freaking commercials, man. Golly, too many commercials for me on ABC. You usually get like Greg McElroy. It's just not, I don't like him calling games. I'm just not a Greg Mac fan of him playing at Bama. Appreciate his time and what he did there, but other than that, not a fan. So that's kind of that. I think Bama wins, and they do cover. Big test for Missouri. Big test as well as Bama.